President Bush moves west to Paris. All decked out for its bicentennial Bastille Day bash. More than ever, a sparkling city of light.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from Paris. Good evening. This is the Arch de la France, the new Arch of Paris. Bold, brash, controversial. A whole new angle on things. Symbolic of the new look, the new drive of a new Europe. It is inside here, right at the top on the 35th floor, that President Bush and the leaders of the major trading countries of the free world meet for an economic summit. Among other things, they meet to consider ways to help Eastern Europeans break away from the failed politics and economics of communism.
As your economy modernizes, you will play an even greater role in the evolution of a new Europe, a Europe that is whole and free.
President Bush left Budapest this morning, heading away from an Eastern Europe on the verge of economic and political revolution. Coming here to Paris, to a Western Europe, on the eve of celebrating the 200th anniversary of the French Revolution. One by one, the heads of state arrived. Helmut Kohl, leader of a resurgent West Germany, seeking new markets in the East and new influence in the West. Margaret Thatcher of Britain, in a leadership competition with the continent. Prime Minister Uno of Japan, hoping not to be shut out of a unified European marketplace. Into this mix comes George Bush, mindful of the people and forces at work here. All in all, 34 leaders of nations, the haves and the have-nots. You only had to spend a few minutes in the streets to see what a monumental security problem they brought with them. In Paris today, it's difficult to tell whether they're preparing to celebrate a revolution or expecting to fight one. You could be forgiven for thinking that this place has become the ultimate police state. Everywhere you looked, the police were looking at you. In the air, a high-tech security blimp. Tons of bulletproof glass imported from Germany. Even an anti-aircraft battery in a Paris park. President Mitterrand's prescription for secure friendships. Along with the troops, an army of street cleaners. Their day began at dawn. Cleanup duty from last night's confetti-dropping rehearsal for a carnival. Paris was in a bicentennial tune. The irony of this week is that so many Parisians have left town, either unimpressed by both bicentennial and summit, or simply terrified by the steel security and growing chaos. Traffic gridlock everywhere. 34 heads of state, 34 separate motorcades, 34 traffic jams. The few who were left just went about their day as normal, and complained just a little as normal. I think it's a pity, says this vegetable seller. These dignitaries have blocked up my city. The flower seller doesn't even want to think about it. The postman doesn't either. The baker's too busy to think about it. 1 million baguettes by tomorrow. For the world leaders here for the summit and the bicentennial, official ceremonies with a French flavor. But tonight, for the people, there was dancing in the streets all over town, no charge. And at the Place de la Bastille, where it all began 200 years ago, what's billed as the world's biggest ball. Midnight is just past here in Paris. It's officially Bastille Day, and the fireworks have set off the celebration. With me is CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl. Leslie, a president wears many hats, and President Bush here is wearing at least two. One, celebrating the bicentennial of the French Revolution. Two, leading the U.S. delegation to the Economic Summit.
Well, he's going to be dealing with both. And on the first one, the bicentennial, for 40 years, intellectuals in France, the socialists, have been teaching their children that the Russian Revolution was the natural completion of what they started with the French Revolution. But now that the communist world is crumbling, they've changed that, and they say, actually, the French Revolution is the child of the great American experiment. So President Bush comes here when the whole world is celebrating American values. He also comes, as you say, to the Economic Summit, where he will be trying to assert himself and establish himself as the leader of the free world. And he's going to do that by trying to make the issues he wants to talk about the dominant issues. And the main one for him here will be concerted aid for Poland and Hungary, the countries he just visited. What's ironic, Dan, is that he'll probably get that support here, then go home and face enormous opposition from the conservatives within his own party. Jesse Helms from North Carolina blocked some aid he wanted to bring with him to Poland, and Helms says he's going to continue to block it every time the president tries to bring it to the Senate.
What about the substance of differences in the Western Economic Alliance?
Well, you know, this is the economic summit, but they tend not to talk about economic problems anymore at these events. They tend to be more PR get-togethers because these leaders want to demonstrate to the world that they're unified, that things in the West are harmonious, solid, strong, and that picture of unity as the competition with the Soviet bloc reaches its crucial point becomes very important to these leaders.
Naturally, they want that front page picture all over the world, but what are they trying to smokescreen over, cover up, put under the rug?
Well, with the Poland aid and talking about the environment, and the Japanese have just announced a $43 billion foreign aid package for poor countries, what they're trying not to have put out in the spotlight is the fact that the United States has not seriously dealt with its budget deficit, that the Japanese are accumulating trade surpluses, continuing to, and that trade tensions continue to mount between the United States and Europe. You know, it's calling this the economic summit is a misnomer. They really should call it Don't Worry, Be Happy Summit.
Leslie Stahl, thanks. As the fireworks continue to go off celebrating Bastille Day, we'll be back with other news of the day shortly, and then more from here in Paris as we continue our special coverage of the President's trip and the new face of Europe.
All brand, part of your health kick?
Yeah, helps ensure I get enough fiber.
Each morning, Tracy Reed takes out some fiber insurance with Kellogg's All Brand, concentrated fiber that can help her meet the National Cancer Institute's guidelines for a high-fiber, low-fat diet. A diet some studies suggest may reduce the risks of certain forms of cancer.
Oh, you're crazy to worry about stuff like that.
I'd be crazy not to.
Kellogg's All Brand. Make it your daily fiber policy.
Now, new scientific tests prove Heart's Blockade Repellent gives your pet total protection against fleas and ticks, or your money back. Unsolicited, here's what some satisfied Blockade users have told us.
Our dog suffers with fleas, and even dipping doesn't help. Last summer we tried Blockade. I want to thank you and tell you how much I appreciate this product. It really does work.
We were having a terrible time with fleas until we found Blockade. Since using it, we've had great results, and it smells so good.
Heart's Blockade, guaranteed flea and tick protection that really works.
Good morning.
Good news. Medical experts agree today's X-Lax helps restore natural fluid balance to get you back to natural regularity. And that's a good morning for you. Today's X-Lax, the sure way back to natural regularity.
Dentists warn the #1 dental problem isn't cavities, it isn't tartar, it's plaque. And most people just don't brush well enough to get enough plaque off their teeth. That's why there's Plaques, the dental rinse specifically designed to remove plaque.
Today, we didn't expect this story to have a happy ending. Doug Tennell looks at a small plane's flight that will go into aviation's history book.
For Washington lawyer and aviator Tom Root, what began as a routine hop from National Airport to North Carolina ended on a runway in Miami today after one of aviation history's most incredible voyages. Shortly after takeoff, Root radioed controllers that he was having a little problem, a little trouble breathing. That was all anyone heard from Tom Root. The Marines scrambled 2 fighter jets. Their crews spotted Root, apparently unconscious, slumped over the controls. His plane was on autopilot heading south. 4 hours after Root's last contact with controllers, his aircraft began running out of fuel over the Bahamas.
And all he did was just circle and descend and circle and descend and circle and descend.
The plane splashed into the sea. Air Force divers were in the water moments later, while air controllers waited for word of the pilot.
Okay, there's possible survivors in the water, and PJs are swimming toward them now.
Root was alive, revived by the shock of hitting the water. He was flown to Miami and hospitalized in critical but stable condition this afternoon.
I said to the young lady who talked to me to tell him, Root, you really did it this time.
For a pilot whose business card lists flying as his first love, it was not an entirely successful flight. Tom Root's destination had been Rocky Mount, North Carolina. He was 800 miles off course. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Miami.
Someone threw a homemade bomb at a group of U.S. soldiers leaving a discotheque in Honduras earlier today. 7 of the Americans were wounded, 3 of them seriously. The bomber escaped. No one claimed responsibility. This was the 4th attack this year on U.S. troops in Honduras. At least 20 Americans have been wounded in Honduras since 1982. That's when the U.S. began building up its forces in the Central American nation bordering Nicaragua. A hero of the Cuban Revolution was executed by a firing squad in Havana today. He was convicted of smuggling tons of drugs through Cuba into the United States. Juan Vasquez in Miami has the story.
General Arnoldo Ochoa and 3 others were executed by a firing squad at dawn today following a trial in which there was no defense and an appeals process that was exhausted within days. It was a startling reminder of how severe and how swift Cuban justice can be under Fidel Castro. Drug running is a serious business, Castro said at a televised meeting of the Council of State. There was no alternative. Comunicación. We need to communicate with the Americans about how to manage our common drug smuggling problem, Castro insisted. But many do not believe Castro is sincere.
Representatives of the government of Cuba have consistently, privately, and publicly rejected allegations that any Cuban officials have been involved in drug trafficking since 1959.
With his newfound enthusiasm, Castro has threatened to shoot down drug-running airplanes.
Okay, if he rolls out on any kind of a southerly heading, we got to break off. We are right on the edge. Okay.
But just a few days ago, U.S. Customs agents watched in frustration as this airplane escaped by flying into Cuban airspace.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Even so, some U.S. officials feel it's time to test Castro.
Tragically, Cuba has done all that it can do. The ball's in our court. They're asking, what is it you want us to do?
During the trial, Ochoa admitted his guilt and never implicated anyone above him. But Cuba watchers say nothing happens on the island nation without Castro himself knowing about it. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Miami.
A former top official at HUD is reportedly ready to implicate former Housing Secretary Sam Pierce in the influence peddling scandal at the agency. The Associated Press quotes unidentified sources as saying that Deborah Gore-Dean is now offering her testimony to Congress in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Dean was once Pierce's executive assistant at HUD. These sources say that Dean would testify that Pierce personally ordered funding for specific projects in a program that's been under investigation. Pierce has denied a direct role in funding decisions. Also in Washington today, the House of Representatives took up a proposal to amend the U.S. Constitution to protect the American flag. CBS News national correspondent Phil Jones reports on the debate over politics and patriotism.
The easiest thing in the world to demagogue is the flag.
That was perhaps the understatement of the day as the House began hearings on President Bush's constitutional amendment outlawing flag burning.
The Congress and the states shall have power to prohibit the physical desecration of the flag of the United States. 20 words, very simple.
But liberal Democrats, afraid of being pegged as anti-flag, were talking about legislation instead of a constitutional amendment. And when Congressman Don Edwards tried to slow the political avalanche toward an amendment, he ran into fire from a fellow Democrat.
And this is our symbol. That's what they fought for. That's what they died for. And y'all have got to get it in your heads. They're going to get it some way or the other.
Even Michael Dukakis, who got burned on patriotism in the presidential campaign when he wouldn't support a mandatory Pledge of Allegiance, today joined those who want to protect the flag.
Defacing or burning or destroying the flag ought to be illegal. I think you can probably do it without amending the Constitution.
But at least one Democrat today called the flag-burning debate a crude form of political one-upsmanship.
The flag dispute has instead reduced the political debate to shameful and crass demagoguery, all with a cold eye toward the next election.
Republicans deny any demagoguery, but it is clear that flag-waving is a no-lose political issue. Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.
The Indiana Supreme Court today overturned the death sentence of Paula Cooper, convicted of a brutal murder when she was 15 years old. The court based its decision on a 1987 change in Indiana law, which raised the minimum age for a death penalty from 10 to 16 years, and on a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling that barred executions of people younger than 16. The Indiana court today said that Cooper, now 19, should be sentenced to 60 years in prison. There were international calls for clemency in Cooper's case, including an appeal from Pope John Paul.
Friends acting funny? Maybe it's your breath. Try a Milk-Bone mint-flavored dog biscuit. Mint-flavored biscuits put the bite on bad breath and clean your teeth. Because like all Milk-Bone biscuits, each crunch helps scrape away food particles and plaque that can cause bad breath. Mint-flavor Milk-Bone dog biscuits with the cool taste of mint that everybody loves. Milk-Bone dog biscuits, twice a day.
It's incredible. You know, patients come in, they don't even tell me they smoke. It's only after I examine them that I find out they're trying to quit.
Yeah, you know what I tell them? It's an addiction to nicotine. You need treatment. Today we can treat nicotine addiction.
Patients don't know that. They just don't know that.
Well, it's a shame they don't come to us.
Yeah.
See your doctor for help.
Not this much, not this much, just this much. New advanced formula kaopectate works fast to relieve diarrhea and cramps, and it tastes better too. New advanced formula kaopectate, more than ever, the diarrhea specialist.
I can't tell you how much I love these guys, but I can tell you it's 25% less than before.
Love your family 25% less with Fleischmann's Light. 25% less saturated fat, salt, and calories than regular margarine. And zero cholesterol. Fleischmann's Light.
While this Arc de la Défense may be the new Arch of Paris, at the other end of this avenue is the grand old symbol of traditional France, the Arc de Triomphe, world known, instantly recognizable, a landmark of Europe. The old arch has been spruced up, patched up, and cleaned up recently, symbolic of the new pride of France and the new face of Europe, a Western Europe that is about to take a giant leap to 1992, breaking down borders and trade barriers for itself, competing on a much grander scale with the rest of the world. CBS News chief European correspondent Tom Fenton reports on the coming of the United Consortium of Europe.
History is in the making. Your involvement is critical.
At long last, Europe's open for business.
December 31st, 1992 is the deadline for 12 small and medium-sized European countries to merge into one giant market, the biggest in the Western world. The symbol that a rich, self-confident Europe is ready to become the world's new economic superpower.
Europe has all the potential to be twice as big as Japan.
To reach that goal, the countries of the European community have agreed to demolish national roadblocks that act as a brake on their economies. These trucks are waiting to be cleared at the French-Belgian border. Imagine a truck driving from New York to Florida having to pass customs at all 11 states it crosses. Foreign truck drivers in Dover wait for hours, sometimes days, for the paperwork to be processed. These delays cost European business $10 billion a year. Other internal trade barriers are even more wasteful. When a manufacturer exports his products from here in Dover to the other European community countries, he may have to provide as many as 11 different models to meet the standards of each country. All that adds another $20 billion to the cost of doing business in Europe. European officials have drawn up regulations to remove the roadblocks and create Europe-wide standards. Everything from the maximum sound level of a lawnmower to the minimum sugar in jam. Expected result is a $300 billion economic boom in Europe. Europeans say the success of the American economy in the early 80s and fear of Japan spurred the 1992 project.
We have dramatically the choice between decline or survival, and we choose to survive.
Jacques Delors is president of the European Community and a driving force for European unity.
If you had not taken these steps,
Would Europe have fallen behind the United States and Japan? Would Europe have remained competitive?
Without 92? No. We will become a sort of museum. No more.
Right now, the trade balance between Europe and America is about even, but some Americans are afraid this will change. With the barriers coming down inside Europe, the question is whether new barriers will be erected against the outside world. The Americans and Japanese fear their products will be shut out of the European market. There's talk of a fortress Europe.
I think Americans should be afraid of Japan first, but not of Europe.
Europeans these days have a lifestyle that rivals Americans. Potentially the world's richest market, Europe already has the biggest share of world trade. Europeans say they see their future as partners, not rivals of America, but much stronger partners.
The aim has always been, quite clearly, explicitly, there's nothing secret or sinister about this, to enable Europe to recover the influence in the world which it threw away by devastating internecine struggle in the two world wars.
Even England is finally giving up its splendid isolation by building a tunnel to link it to Europe. Other links are being forged as 12 distinctly different countries give up more and more of their national sovereignty. The goal is a common currency and foreign policy, perhaps a European army, and some Europeans hope eventually a United States of Europe.
The single European market. Are you prepared?
It's more than just a deadline, it's a starting point. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Paris.
We'll take a look at how all of this affects American business in a moment.
Freedent's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent gum. You know Freedent won't stick to your dental work, and Freedent freshens your breath. But maybe you didn't know Freedent moistens your mouth. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, chew Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth, and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
Why can't they make a stronger flea collar?
Someone has. Scratch X. Look, compared to Hearts and Sergeants, Scratch X has the power to kill twice as many fleas. Compare. All these collars kill fleas, but Scratch X has the power to kill twice as many fleas, since it's government approved to work twice as long.
Yet Scratch X is safe for 3-month-old pets.
Remember, compared to Hearts and Sergeants' 5-month collars, the Scratch X 11-month collar has the power to kill twice as many fleas.
Got a flat tire. Now my stomach's on fire. My day. My Lanta, too.
Introducing Mylanta 2 roll packs for double strength antacid relief wherever you are.
Because my life takes my Lanta 2.
It's time once again for Kinko's 2.5-cent copy sale. You pay just 2.5 cents each for white letter size copies. We'll be open 24 hours a day for this 1-week only sale. Get your 2.5-cent copies at Kinko's, the copy center.
The refurbishing of the Arc de Triomphe was a long and painstaking process. The financing for this construction work caused quite a controversy here in France and in Europe. Resentment against the U.S. taking part at all in the restoration and helping to bankroll it. That's symbolic of the controversy building now over the U.S. role as competitor and investor in a new and united Europe. Business correspondent Ray Brady reports on the new business of Europe and why, for Americans, it may not be business as usual.
This is real Spanish flamenco in Madrid, but those people are Americans, engineers from the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, that most American of all companies. AT&T already has built one plant here to make semiconductors, and it's rushing construction of another plant.
There's a new horizon, new investments in Europe. They're accelerating very rapidly.
Here in Spain and in most of Europe, there's a new surge of American companies expanding and building plants, getting ready for 1992, when Europe starts turning into one huge market of 320 million people. And U.S. companies fear if they're not in then, they'll be left out.
They're afraid of being shut out. In other words, discriminated against because they're Americans.
Fueled by that fear, U.S. investment across Europe has nearly doubled in the last 5 years. In Brussels alone, in the heart of this new common market, There are so many American businessmen, they now hold a giant 4th of July party every year.
You're just a Coca-Cola cowboy.
There are lawyers, consultants, public relations people, the advance guard of companies still on the way here, even as the American Chamber of Commerce keeps urging still more companies to come over.
That if you've not yet considered entering Europe, it's time you did.
The days where you manufacture your products in one continent, put them in a plane or a boat and bring them over here and sell them are gone. You have to be a partner with the people that you're going to sell the equipment to.
But while all this is going on, the U.S. government has been trying to get American companies to produce more at home to help the trade balance.
The basic need and the basic focus for the U.S., should be production here domestically and export that production. Unfortunately, what's good for American business or what's good for an individual company is not necessarily good for workers here in this country.
In some countries of Europe, such as Spain, U.S. companies do get a big inducement to build plants. Cheap labor, cheaper than in the U.S.
I think the real question is, what is the best interest of the American worker, if you will, the person that might lose a job or never be offered a job, because a company like Intel will put a plant in Europe rather than to expand our plant, let's say, in New Mexico or California.
Once this huge $2.4 trillion market gets rolling, companies fear barriers could be put up to keep out products not made here. As the economic summit begins, there's a new Europe being built. The old world moving fast to catch up with the U.S. and the rest of the world. Ray Brady, CBS News, Madrid.
And that's the CBS Evening News. We hope you'll join us tonight, coming up here soon, for a special live edition of 48 Hours from Paris, Revolution 89. 200 years after the French Revolution, the new struggle for freedom from Beijing to Budapest. And following that, Charles Kuralt joins me for a CBS News special on the 20th anniversary of man's first lunar landing. The moon above, the earth below. It all starts at 8, 7 Central Time. Dan Rather. See you then.
You're about to see what it feels like to have a sinus headache. An invisible force pressing against your nasal passages. A painful pressure building up behind your eyes. And to help take this pressure and pain away, there's new Contact Sinus Formula. Nothing you can buy relieves the pressure and pain better, and it won't make you drowsy. New Contact Sinus Formula. Until there's a cure, there's Contact.
Dear Malox, my daughter's date's giving me Malox moments.
Hey, I'm here!
Last night was a real doozy. What a Malox moment. My stomach did flip-flops. Good thing Extra Strength Malox Plus is so strong. My doctor recommended it, and it's the strongest antacid I can buy. With teenagers, Malox is a must.
Nice house. Nice earring.
Write us about your Malox moments. Extra Strength Malox Plus. Strong relief for all your Malox moments.
Are your teeth sensitive? Do they hurt? Sensodyne toothpaste can help stop the domino effect that can start with sensitivity. Then pain can make you stop brushing and can lead to tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect.
Terry's family loves olive oil, but they could do without the excess fat and calories. So Terry, meet Pam. New olive oil Pam. It adds about 90% less fat and calories.
Revolution 89. France celebrates a rebellion past as revolution sweeps through the communist world. A special edition of 48 Hours from Paris tonight.
This is CBS.
Good evening, I'm Chris Clark, and coming up next on Eyewitness News, a water purifier company is just part of a federal lawsuit charging deceptive practices. Spring Hill and surrounding communities are gearing up to handle the Saturn. There's a new fight to protect the flag, and in sports, more all-stars, but of a very different kind. Eyewitness News is next. Join us.